It was raining so hard that night I could barely see the road. The sound of thunder rolled through the sky like the world was breaking apart. My phone had just died. My umbrella flipped inside out. And I was running late for my sister's engagement dinner, the one I had promised not to miss. But that's not what I remember most. What I remember most is the moment I saw him. A man soaked to the bone, shivering under the old bridge downtown, holding something in his hands. He stepped out as I passed by, his eyes hidden beneath the shadow of his hood. And in a low, raspy voice, he said, "Sir, is this yours?" He held out my wallet. My heart nearly stopped, because inside that wallet was everything: my ID, credit cards, and over $1,200 in cash. I had lost it earlier that morning at a coffee shop, and I had already accepted it was gone forever. But here it was, wet and dirty, in the hands of a man who looked like he hadn't eaten in days. When I opened it right there under the storm, every bill was still there. Every single one. Where did you find this?" I asked, barely able to speak. "Trash can by the coffee shop," he said quietly. I saw the name on the ID and thought, someone's probably looking for it. I just stood there, rain dripping from my hair, staring at him. He had done something most people wouldn't even think about doing. But before I could thank him properly, before I could even get his name, he turned away, back toward the shadows beneath the bridge. And that's when I noticed something that made my stomach twist. He had no shoes. Just a pair of torn socks soaked through with mud and rainwater. I shouted after him, but he didn't look back. He disappeared into the dark, leaving me with my wallet clutched tightly in my shaking hands. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about him. I went to the engagement dinner. Sure, but I didn't enjoy a second of it. My sister was glowing, my family was laughing, and all I could picture was that man, wet and cold, sleeping under a bridge after returning money that could have fed him for weeks. Who does that? When I got home, I checked my wallet again. Every dollar was still there. He hadn't taken a thing, not even a dime. Something inside me just broke. I needed to find him. The next morning, I went back downtown. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still shiny and slick. I asked people around the area, store owners, security guards, even street vendor, if they'd seen a tall man in a gray jacket sleeping under the bridge. Most of them just shook their heads. Then an old vendor selling hot dogs pointed down the block and said, "You mean Eddie?" "Eddie?" I repeated. "Yeah, he hangs around there sometimes. Doesn't bother anyone. Kinda quiet. I give him leftovers when I can." That was the first time I heard his name, Eddie. I thanked the man and went to the spot the vendor pointed at. The bridge looked even sadder in daylight. Empty bottles, scraps of cardboard, a few wet blankets. Someone had clearly been sleeping there. But Eddie was gone. Still, I waited. Hours passed. Cars whooshed by. The city buzzed with life above me, while I sat in the dirt with 2 cups of coffee and a bag of sandwiches from the nearest deli. Then, as the sun started to set, I saw movement in the corner of my eye. He was back. Same gray jacket. Same tired eyes. He froze when he saw me there waiting. I smiled, stood up, and held out the coffee. "I owe you something," I said. He hesitated. "You don't owe me nothing, man." "Actually," I said, stepping closer, "I think I owe you everything." He finally took the cup, his hands trembling slightly as he held it. His nails were dirty, his knuckles scraped, but he said thank you so softly it almost broke my heart. I asked if he'd sit and talk with me. He didn't say much at first, just short answers. But the more we talked, the more I learned. He used to be a mechanic, had a family once, lost his job after an accident, bills piled up, his wife left. Then one night, his small apartment caught fire. After that, everything fell apart. He said it like it was just facts, like it didn't even hurt anymore. But it did. I could hear it in his voice. I asked him where he stayed most nights. He shrugged and said, "Wherever I can." I couldn't believe someone so honest, someone who could have easily walked away with $1,200, was sleeping on concrete. That night, when I got back to my car, I sat behind the wheel and stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. I had everything: money, a home, a job, and I'd been complaining about traffic and bad coffee just the day before. Meanwhile, the man who found my wallet was sleeping under a bridge. No, I couldn't just walk away this time. I made a decision right then. I was going to help Eddie. Not just by giving him food or cash, I was going to change his life. But the next morning, when I came back with new clothes, shoes, and a hotel room waiting for him, Eddie was gone. His blankets were gone. His cardboard bed was gone. And scrawled on the concrete wall in faded chalk were 3 words that sent a chill down my spine. Don't look back. For a long moment, I just stood there staring at those 3 words, don't look back. The rain had started again, light and cold, dripping off the edge of the bridge. I ran my fingers over the chalk letters as if touching them might somehow bring him back, but they were rough and fading, as if written days ago. It didn't make sense. Why would Eddie disappear after I promised to help him? Why would he leave without saying goodbye? I looked around under the bridge, behind the concrete pillars, even through piles of cardboard and old newspapers. Nothing. No trace of him. It was like he'd vanished into thin air. And yet, something told me he hadn't gone far. I spent the next few days driving through every street corner, park, and alley within a 5-mile radius. I asked other homeless people if they knew Eddie. Most shook their heads. A few said they hadn't seen him in a while. One old man in a blue beanie said something that stuck with me. You won't find him if he don't want to be found. That guy, he keeps to himself, always saying people bring trouble. Trouble? I asked. The man nodded. Said once he helped somebody and it cost him everything. That sentence sent a chill through me. What did that mean? Had something bad happened to Eddie in the past, something that made him afraid of help? I didn't know it then. But the answer to that question would change everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every detail: the rain, the way he said, "You don't owe me nothing," the look in his eyes when I mentioned helping him. He wasn't scared of me, he was scared for me. But from what? At 3 a.m., I sat up in bed and made a decision. I wasn't giving up. If Eddie didn't want to be found, fine. I'd start helping the people around him. Maybe someone would know where he went. The next morning, I loaded my car with sandwiches, bottled water, and a stack of blankets. I drove downtown again, handing them out to anyone who needed one. I figured if I couldn't find Eddie, I could at least do something he'd approve of. But as I was leaving the area, a man with a shopping cart full of cans called out, "You looking for Eddie?" I froze. "Yes." "You've seen him?" He pointed toward the train station. "Saw him head that way 2 nights ago. Said he was taking the early train out of town. Don't know where to." Something about that didn't feel right. Eddie didn't strike me as the kind of person who just left. He had no money, no bags, no shoes. And that message on the wall, "Don't look back," it didn't sound like a man running away. It sounded like a man hiding. I thanked the man and drove straight to the train station. The station was crowded, people with suitcases, students, tired, workers heading home. I walked around for hours, showing Eddie's photo. I had managed to pull a blurry image of him from the security camera near the bridge. No one recognized him. I was about to give up when I noticed a familiar shape near the vending machines, a gray jacket, torn, faded. My heart jumped. I rushed forward, but when the man turned around, it wasn't Eddie. Still, the stranger looked at me strangely. "You talking about that guy that sleeps near the tracks?" he asked. "Yes. Do you know where he is?" He pointed toward the far side of the platform. "He's been staying near the old maintenance shed, behind track 4. Don't let the guards see you, they'll chase him off." I thanked him and ran toward the shed. The area was quiet, filled with the smell of rust and oil. I peeked behind the shed, and there he was sitting on a stack of wooden crates, wrapped in an old blanket, his head bowed. "Eddie," I called softly. He looked up slowly. When he saw me, his eyes widened a mix of surprise and fear. "I told you not to come looking for me," he said, his voice hoarse. "Why would you leave like that?" I asked, stepping closer. "You helped me. I just want to return the favor." He shook his head. "You don't understand. The last person who tried to help me ended up in the hospital." That stopped me cold. "What? What happened?" He hesitated, then whispered, "Some people, bad ones, they think I owe them. They've been following me for months. I thought I lost them, but they always find me. That's why I wrote that message. I didn't want them finding you too." My stomach sank. "Who are they?" Before he could answer, there was a loud noise like metal scraping. Eddie's head snapped up. His eyes darted toward the corner of the shed. "Too late," he muttered. "They found me." I turned just in time to see two men in dark coats stepping out from behind a stack of crates, moving toward us. One of them said, "Eddie, you got something that belongs to us?" And that's when I realized this wasn't just about a homeless man returning a wallet. Eddie was running from something much, much bigger. The two men stepped out from the shadows like ghosts. Both were tall, wearing black coats slick with rain. One of them had a scar running down his cheek. The other was bald and chewing gum like he owned the place. Eddie froze beside me, his whole body tense. "Stay behind me," he whispered. "Eddie," I murmured. "What's going on? Who are they?" Before he could answer, the man with the scar sneered. "Well, look who we found. Didn't think you could hide forever, did you, Eddie?" "I told you I don't have it," Eddie shouted back, his voice trembling. The bald man took a step closer, cracking his knuckles. "You had it once, old man. We know you did, and until we get it back, you're not going anywhere." I stepped forward instinctively. "Hey, leave him alone." Scarface's eyes flicked toward me. "Who's this? Your new partner?" Eddie grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly strong. "Don't talk to them," he hissed under his breath. "Please, just walk away." But I couldn't. "Not now," Scarface smirked. "You know, you've got a lot of nerve, Eddie. Stealing from us, then disappearing. You think we wouldn't find you?" "I didn't steal anything," Eddie shouted. "It wasn't even mine to begin with." That sentence made my heart skip. It wasn't even mine? What was he talking about? Before I could ask, the bald man lunged forward and shoved Eddie against the shed. Eddie grunted, his shoulders slamming into the metal wall with a dull thud. "Hey!" I yelled, rushing toward them. But the bald man turned and shoved me back so hard I nearly fell. "Stay out of this, hero," he growled. "This ain't your fight." My pulse pounded in my ears. I could have walked away. I should have walked away. But the image of Eddie returning my wallet in the rain flashed through my mind. How honest he'd been. How he'd refused to take even $1. No way was I leaving him now. So I did the only stupid thing that came to mind. I grabbed the nearest object, a rusted metal pipe, lying beside the shed, and swung it. It hit the bald man's arm with a clang, and he shouted in pain. "Run!" Eddie yelled. I didn't think twice. Eddie and I bolted, sprinting across the empty tracks as the two men cursed and gave chase. My lungs burned, my heart hammered, and I could barely see where we were going. The air reeked of oil and smoke. Somewhere in the distance, a train horn blared. We ducked behind a freight car just as the train roared past, the noise deafening. The man's voices faded behind the sound of screeching wheels. When the train cleared, Eddie slumped against the wall, breathing hard. "You shouldn't have done that." I was gasping too. "You're welcome." "I'm serious," he snapped, grabbing my jacket. "You just painted a target on your back. Those men, they don't forget faces." I swallowed hard. "Then tell me what's going on. What do they want from you?" Eddie looked away, his jaw clenched. Then he said, "A bag. That's what they're after." "A bag?" He nodded slowly. "A small black duffel bag." I found it months ago behind a warehouse dumpster. Thought it was just trash. But when I opened it, he stopped. What was in it? I pressed. He hesitated. Cash. Stacks of it. More money than I've ever seen. But I swear, I didn't take it. I called the cops that night, told them where to find it. Only by morning, the bag was gone. No cops, no report, nothing. Next thing I know, these guys show up saying I took their money. My head spun. So you think they're criminals? I know they are, Eddie said. And they think I still got what's theirs. But I didn't take it. He looked away again, guilt flashing across his face. I just told the wrong person. Who? Before he could answer, we heard footsteps echoing down the platform again. Eddie's eyes widened. They found us. He grabbed my hand. Come on. We darted toward a stairwell leading to the street above. My heart pounded as I heard shouts behind us. Eddie moved surprisingly fast for a man his age, his bare feet slapping against the concrete. When we reached the top of the stairs, we burst into the open air, right onto a busy downtown street. Cars honked, people stared. We blended into the crowd as quickly as we could. Keep walking, Eddie said between breaths. Don't look back. That phrase again. We turned down the alleyway and stopped behind a row of dumpsters. Eddie bent over, coughing. I could see exhaustion in every line on his face. Eddie, I said softly, we can't keep running like this. Let me help you. I can get the police involved. He shook his head violently. No cops. You don't understand. They're everywhere. These men, they're connected. They pay people off. I stared at him, trying to process everything. Then, what do we do? He glanced around, his eyes darting like a hunted animal. Then he said, there's one person who can help us, but getting to him won't be easy. Who? Eddie's voice dropped to a whisper. A man named Red. He used to work with them before things went bad. And where is he? Eddie hesitated, then looked me dead in the eye. He lives under the old power station. But if we go there, you have to promise me something. What? No matter what happens, he said. You don't leave my side. I nodded slowly. I promise. Eddie gave a shaky sigh, then started walking toward the end of the alley. But as he turned the corner, headlights suddenly flared two bright beams blinding us. A black van screeched to a stop, blocking the exit. The doors flew open, and the man in dark coats stepped out. The blinding headlights froze us in place. The van's door slammed open, and before I could even move, two men jumped out, Scarface and the bald one, from the train station. Run! Eddie shouted, but we had nowhere to go. The alley was narrow, boxed in by tall brick walls. Behind us, only trash cans and a chain link fence too high to climb. Scarface smirked as he walked forward, his boots splashing through puddles. You're a hard man to catch, Eddie. Didn't expect you to bring a friend, though. The bald man cracked his knuckles and stepped closer. Hand it over, he growled. You know what we're here for. Eddie stood his ground, trembling but defiant. I told you, I don't have it. You already searched me once. You think I'd still be running if I did? Scarface chuckled coldly. Oh, I think you've got something all right. Maybe not the bag, but maybe something else. Like a memory card, maybe? Eddie's eyes widened. Just for a second. But that second was enough. Scarface's grin widened. There it is. You do still have it. Before I could even process what was happening, the bald man lunged forward and shoved Eddie against the wall again. Eddie cried out in pain. Stop, I yelled, stepping between them. Leave him alone. The bald man's eyes turned on me. This doesn't concern you, kid. I stood my ground anyway. He's done nothing wrong. He just wants to be left alone. Scarface tilted his head. Oh, he's done plenty wrong. You think he's just some poor homeless guy? Ask him what's on that memory card. I turned to Eddie. What's he talking about? Eddie's lips pressed into a thin line. He didn't answer. Scarface sighed. Fine, I'll tell you. He reached into his coat and pulled out a photo, grainy, black and white. That's what was in the bag, kid. Cash, yeah, but also this little beauty. He tapped the photo. A memory card loaded with proof of what we've been doing. Names, bank accounts, offshore payments. Eddie here used to clean up after us until he decided to grow a conscience. My heart pounded. So you're saying, I'm saying, Scarface interrupted, your friend here stole something that could put a lot of important people behind bars. And we can't have that, can we? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black object. My stomach dropped. It was a gun. The bald man tightened his grip on Eddie's jacket. You should have stayed gone. For a moment, I thought it was over. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. But then, Eddie did something I didn't expect. He smiled. Yeah, he said softly. Maybe I should have. Then, in one swift motion, Eddie stomped on the bald man's foot and slammed his elbow into his ribs. The man doubled over, groaning. Eddie turned and grabbed my arm. Go, he shouted. We ran again, this time toward the end of the alley. Scarface fired once, the gunshot echoing off the walls. The bullet shattered a bottle inches from my head. We burst through a side gate into another street lit by flickering neon lights. My heart raced as we ducked behind parked cars. Keep moving, Eddie panted. They won't stop. We turned down another street, then another, until the sounds of footsteps faded behind us. Finally, we reached a quiet corner near the riverbank. I was gasping for air. Eddie, what's going on? You said it was just money. Eddie leaned against the railing, catching his breath. His face was pale and wet with sweat. I didn't lie, he said softly. There was money. But there was something else in that bag, something I didn't understand until later. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, plastic-wrapped memory card. My eyes widened. You do have it, he nodded. I thought I got rid of it, but it was in my jacket lining the whole time. I found it yesterday. Then give it to the police, I said. Eddie shook his head. No, not yet. The cops are part of it. I tried once before. That's why they burned my apartment down. I froze. You mean the fire? He nodded slowly. Yeah, that wasn't an accident. That's how I lost everything. The silence that followed was heavy. For the first time, I truly saw him not as the man under the bridge, but as someone who'd been hunted, punished, and broken for doing the right thing. I swallowed hard. Then what do we do now? Eddie looked at me, eyes dark but determined. We find Red, the man under the power station? He nodded. He's the only one who knows how to expose what's on this card. But it's not safe to go there tonight. They'll be searching every block. Then where can we hide? I asked. Eddie looked around, scanning the dark riverfront. I know a place, but you're not gonna like it. He started walking toward the docks, where rows of abandoned shipping containers sat under the fog. We'll stay there until morning. I followed him silently, my heart still pounding. The night air was cold and thick with tension. Every sound made me jump. When we finally reached a large red container, Eddie slid open the door just enough for us to slip inside. It smelled of rust and salt water. He dropped down against the wall and pulled a thin blanket from his pack. Get some rest, he said. We move at sunrise. I sat across from him, too wired to sleep. Eddie? Yeah? Why didn't you just run? You could have kept the money, disappeared forever. He looked at me for a long time before answering. Because if I did that, I'd never be able to live with myself. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Outside, the wind howled and waves lapped against the pier. Then, just as I started to drift off, a sound echoed through the night, slow, heavy footsteps crunching on gravel. Eddie's eyes snapped open. He pressed a finger to his lips. Someone's outside. We both held our breath. A shadow moved past a thin crack in the container door, then another. Voices, low, careful. And then a familiar one said, "Check inside." They couldn't have gone far. Scarface, they'd found us again. The footsteps grew louder. The metallic sound of boots against gravel echoed outside the container. Each step slower, heavier, deliberate. Eddie and I crouched low in the dark, hardly breathing. The faint crack of lightning outside lit the small gap under the door for just a second, enough for me to see the outline of his trembling hands. He was scared, truly scared. Then came the sound we dreaded most, the soft click of the container latch being lifted. Eddie's eyes widened. "They're opening it," he whispered. I looked around frantically. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Just walls of cold metal and the faint smell of oil and salt. Eddie reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the tiny memory card. He pressed it into my palm. "If anything happens to me," he whispered fast, "you find Red, power station on 8th and River. Tell him Eddie sent you. Don't stop. Don't trust anyone. Eddie." No, but before I could finish, the door slammed open. Light flooded in. Scarface stood in the doorway, grinning. His gun pointed straight at us. The bald man flanked him, blocking any escape. "Well, well," Scarface said, stepping forward. "You two gave us quite the chase." Eddie stood up slowly, hands raised. "Let him go. He's got nothing to do with this." Scarface tilted his head. "Oh, I think he does now. You see, Eddie, when people get involved with you, bad things happen. Isn't that right?" The bald man laughed darkly. "Just tell us where it is," Scarface said, stepping closer. "The memory card. Then maybe we'll let you both walk away." Eddie didn't even flinch. "I destroyed it. Oliver." Scarface's smile disappeared. "Try again." "I said it's gone." Scarface raised his gun and pressed it against Eddie's forehead. "You sure about that?" Something inside me snapped. I couldn't just watch. I lunged forward, shouting, "Leave him alone!" Scarface turned, and I swung a metal wrench I'd found near the door hitting his wrist. The gun clattered to the ground. "Wrong, kid," Eddie yelled. I kicked the gun away and grabbed Eddie's arm. We bolted past the bald man, who grabbed my jacket, but Eddie turned and shoved him hard into the container wall. The man stumbled, and we escaped into the stormy night. Rain poured down, soaking us instantly as we ran along the docks. I could hear the man shouting behind us. A gunshot rang out, the bullet hitting the ground inches from my foot. "This way," Eddie yelled, leading me toward the old power station in the distance, its giant towers glowing faintly in the fog. We ran until my lungs burned, until my legs felt like they would give out. Finally, we reached a chain-link fence surrounding the building. Eddie ripped open a loose panel and we slipped through. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the hum of old machinery. "Red!" Eddie shouted. "It's me, you hear?" No response. We moved deeper inside, past broken pipes and rusted metal beams. Then I saw movement, a figure stepping out from behind the generator. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a long gray beard and a flashlight in hand. His voice was deep and gravelly. "Eddie?" Eddie nearly collapsed in relief. "Red, thank God." Red looked from him to me. "You weren't followed, were you?" Eddie shook his head, though both of us knew that wasn't true. "I got it," Eddie said, nodding toward me. "The cart is still here." Red's eyes flicked to me. "Give it here." I hesitated. Eddie said, "It's all right, kid." Eddie interrupted. "He's the only one we can trust." I pulled out the card and handed it to Red. He examined it under the flashlight, his brow furrowing. "You have any idea what's on this thing?" Eddie shook his head. "Only that people were willing to kill for it." Red nodded slowly. "Then you were right to run. This isn't just some dirty money deal. This is government-level corruption, politicians, cops, businessmen. It's all here." My stomach dropped. "Then we need to go to the police, or the news, or..." Red cut me off sharply. "You don't get it, kid. If we take this to the wrong person, we're all dead before sunrise. Eddie stepped closer. Then what do we do? Before Red could answer, the sound of tires screeched outside. Headlights flashed through the broken windows. They found us, I said. Red cursed under his breath. They're faster than I thought. He shoved the card back into my hand. Take it. There's a man named O'Reilly ex-FBI. He runs a repair shop on Jefferson Street. He's the only one who can decrypt it safely. You get this to him, you understand? Eddie looked at me, his eyes full of worry and something deeper guilt. You shouldn't be part of this. You think I'm leaving now? I shot back. Before either of them could respond, a loud crash echoed through the station. The door had been kicked open. Flashlights flickered in the dark. Scarface's voice echoed through the hall. End of the line! Eddie! Eddie grabbed my shoulder. Go now! No, I'm not leaving you. But then I saw the look in his eyes. That same look he'd had when he gave me my wallet back. Calm, steady, final. Please, he whispered. You already changed my life once. Now, let me finish this. Red pulled me toward a side door that led to a narrow escape tunnel. Behind us, gunfire erupted loud, sharp, terrifying. I looked back one last time and saw Eddie standing in the glow of a flickering light, his figure outlined against the chaos. He was holding something, Scarface's dropped gun, and then, through the storm and echoing gunshots, I heard him yell, Run! Red dragged me through the tunnel and into the night. We didn't stop running until the power station was far behind, sirens wailing in the distance. When we finally slowed, I turned to Red. We have to go back. We can't just leave him. Red shook his head grimly. If we go back now, neither of us makes it out alive. Tears stung my eyes, but I clutched the memory card tighter. I didn't know if Eddie was alive or not. All I knew was that he risked everything to protect me the same way he'd once done for a stranger with a lost wallet. And now, it was my turn to protect him. Red looked at me, then at the glowing city skyline ahead. We get this to O'Reilly, he said. Then we expose every one of them. For Eddie. I nodded. For Eddie. We started walking into the storm, unaware that the truth hidden inside that tiny memory card was about to shake the entire city and reveal a secret even Eddie didn't know.